Welcome, my wonderful legionaries to Alyssa's mapping channel. And today we are talking about Monuments Part 2. Now, if you haven't seen Part 1, I earnestly suggest that you go over there right now and then come back here after you've seen that. Because in Part 1, I talk about what are monuments, and I think that is a really important question, especially when it comes to how do you place them and how do you draw them. This particular episode will be focusing on those two questions, and in all truth, it's kind of a hard one to answer, because if you've seen Part 1, monuments can be almost bloody anything. They could be statues, they could be the Leaning Tower of Pisa, they could be the Eiffel Tower, they could be faces carved into rock, they could be the Sphinx, it could be anything. They could be a humble little statue in the middle of a square. And so really and truly, I'm going to zoom out on the city that we've been using as a scratch board over the last few episodes, and I want to underscore the fact that really and truly, a monument, because it can be anything. Let's take a step backwards and think, are there any monuments in this town or city? I mean, it could be even in your village, right? A statue of the guy that slayed the dragon and saved the village 100 years ago. Monument. And you've got to answer that question first. Now, you're probably going to have some statues in your city or your town. And, by the way, let me zoom in. That little tiny dot right here, that's arguably a monument. It's a small one. It may be fairly insignificant at this point, considering the size of our town, but it's a monument. So, before I could draw anything, I need to be thinking, are there any monuments? And it's going to be part of your law, right, to your, I'm going to call it settlement, to encompass all of those sizes. And you should know up front. I mean, it could be a massive, giant statue that's fallen to the ground and is now buildings huddled underneath it. But it's still heavily revered by the local populace. It could be just standing stones. So only you will know what that is, and I can't draw them all. But what I can say is, if you would like some hints and tips for drawing anything, let me know in the comments below, and I promise you I will do a subject matter on it. No adult subjects. Okay. So I think for this one, I'm going to sort of stay mostly focused on where and give a couple of examples, okay? So with this particular place, we'd already decided that this was kind of a bad zone. That's why we're kind of heavily fortified over there. Probably haven't got any important monuments on that side, right? So let's forget that side for a moment. Now over on this side, we do have this big temple district here. Maybe there's a monument of some description. One could argue, by the way, that a big enough temple, a special enough temple, is a monument. This sucker right here, with its gardens all around, that's really starting to fall into the classification of monument. Now, additionally, let's say I want to draw a statue, and it's a big deal to the settlement, and they want people who are entering the city to have a sense of wonder to begin with. Now, this, by the way, is not a huge city. I would say that it's a kind of a largest town, right? So I'm not going to be drawing the statue of Colossus or anything here. I think that would be, I could, but I think it would also be a little bit over the top. I also, by the way, I think we could literally do dozens and dozens and dozens of these particular episodes of monuments, and just like pick a monument, this is how I would draw it. Pick another monument, this is how I'm going to draw it. But today, I'm just going to concentrate on a couple, and I'm going to be more talking about my placement and my logic of thinking, and that's what I want you to focus on. How am I coming to the conclusions that I'm coming to? So, I see this here as a pretty major and important entry and exit to the city. Now that's partly because it's the only bloody entrance and exit on that side. There is also one here, but I've also got a little statue there already. So let's focus over here, because it hasn't had a huge amount of love yet. And what I want you to do is put yourself into the shoes of someone walking these streets. And if you have a particular monument in mind that means something to the local populace, where would it be located? And that's going to partly, by the way, depend on what is that monument. Like a stone circle in the middle of town? Maybe. Did the town grow up around it? That's a possibility, right? But it's really, that's going to be down to your law. That's going to be down to your writing. Here, I want the city to sort of dictate to me a little bit. And so what I'm sort of saying is, I want to have an impressive structure when someone walks into town. I feel like it should be a statue. Okay, so where's that going to be located? Is it going to be behind the market? Well, no. Unless it was up on a hill, in which case, yeah, maybe. But I have already got this major road that I've earmarked right here. So wouldn't it be kind of cool if we placed it here? Like as you're exiting, you go past this. As you come in, maybe you get to see their patron saint, you know? So let's take a look at doing something like that. So I'm going to position it here. We're going to make this like a little square. And when I say square, you know, like a courtyard, that type of thing, a nexus of roads. So first and foremost, I like to try and be a little bit more precise if I'm drawing this type of thing. Okay, come on, Photoshop, there we go. And that is to say, if I'm going to do a circle, I actually want to try and get it pretty circular. I'm not going to hand draw this and just eyeball it. That might be too much. Let's just drop that a little bit. Whoa, nearly. Hold on a sec. Let's take that way down to more like that. And then I think what we'll do is we're gonna let's deselect that, go back to here, and I want a plinth or something that it's on, okay? So it's already on kind of one plinth, but what if it had a step up? And so we'll do it like here, something like this. It's not going to be perfect, but we'll do this. Edit, stroke. I'm going to make this a little smaller. There we go. And now I'm actually going to draw pretty small. I'm going to drop my brush size down quite a bit here. Let's draw a guy. Let's draw a guy with like a spear and a shield. Something like that. Maybe he did slay the dragon. And what I'm going to do, and you can do this in any digital format, but a little bit more difficult, ink on paper, principle is the same, is I'm actually going to draw this on a separate layer. So you just saw that I added a layer right here. And that's so, I mean, I could even, honestly, draw him to one side and then move him on. So let's just do a nice, you know what, let's make it bigger than that. Let's make him bigger than that. Let's give him a good size head. We'll give him a big shield on this side. Like so. Get his shoulder and his arm in here. Get his shoulder on this side. His arm is pointing down. And he has a spear kind of coming out. Maybe it hits up behind him. And we'll kind of do like a spear tip like so. You know what, maybe this guy's actually got a helmet on here, so something like this. Okay, that's gonna do. Okay, and then I'm gonna move this guy on top of here. But I think what I'm actually, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna do that. Now we're doing black and white right now. Colouring this guy is obviously going to come out a little bit, but what I want to do is I'm going to actually take my ink layers a little bit. Now I could mask this. Masking would probably be the better thing to do. You know what? Do I want to mask it? I'm not going to mask it. I'm actually going to do what no one should do. I'm actually going to use the eraser tool on this, And I'm just gonna, oops. Where's my eraser? Eraser there. There we go. I'm not just gonna, oops. Look, hold on. Look what I was doing. Look how big my eraser is. So let's just bring that down a little bit. Right, and I'm just gonna soften up the pedestal underneath him a little bit, so it's a shield that's kind of showing through. Likewise with the spears out there and there. Maybe a little soften up of that there, just to get the details to pop. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And I'm actually going to merge them. I'm okay with that. So really, the main thing that I did there is I thought about what is an appropriate location and what do I want it to be, right? Now, if you've got something like, actually there's a pretty mega lighthouse here, well, let's go over to where maybe we've got a lighthouse, like so. Would there be a regular lighthouse here? Hello? Well, yeah, maybe. Does that make it a monument? Not really, right? Not really. It's got to be special in some capacity. So how about if we again make a new layer? Let's, come on. Don't do that, Photoshop. I know these things. There we go. Let's get the square. Let's make it kind of a rectangular lighthouse. And we'll make that a 3. And then let's get a nice big lighthouse on it there. And then select modify, we're going to contract that a little bit. 10 pixels? Yeah, okay. And then one more, select, modify, contract. Probably more like 20 this time. There we go. And we're just going to actually color that in. Like so. And then we're going to move that entire thing. Well, actually, let's do a little bit more on it. This is special, right? If it's a monument, you should be putting a little bit more detail into it. So, let's give it a little bit of roof detail. Maybe we'll give it a, oops, okay, that was wonky. Let's give it a little bit of a back door, perhaps. Maybe a little bit of a side door over here, like so. And yeah, something like that. Now, I think what I will also do in coloring is actually texture this somewhat, but I'm not going to do that right now, okay? We'll actually do that later on. But already it's different, right? It's a little bit more special. It's got a little bit more love. Its shape is very different than anything else going on. It's different than your normal sort of lighthouse. Maybe we'll do something like that right there. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, that that has to be a monument. Not at all. But if it's going to be a monument, then you have to make it a little bit distinctive, okay? Put a little bit more love into it. Let me give you another example. Let's go on this side. Let's go on this side. We actually have a possibility of roads meeting right here. Now, I'm not going to put something in the middle of this road again, but I'm going to put something to the one side of the road. What if we actually had some standing stones? How would I draw them? Well, literally, I'd probably... Honestly, actually, so hold on a sec. I think what I would do is let's mark off a circle. I'm going to do a temporary circle right here. Doesn't really matter about this because I'm going to get rid of this in a moment. Let's drop the opacity on that. Let's go back to my ink. Only because I'm going to do kind of irregular stones, but I want them to kind of follow the circle, even if it's very, very approximately, right? And you know what, here, maybe... So you can get the idea of what I'm doing here. I haven't really designed this, by the way. I was like, hey, let's do some standing stones. All right, let's take... Was it you? Yeah, it is you. Let's transform this to be smaller in size. Let's bring it in here. Let's do the same again. Let's try and be a little bit more uniform here. And then maybe the center has... Is it a sacrificial stone? Who knows? Something like that. We get rid of this one underneath because we don't need it anymore. Now that sticks out, right? And that's kind of the point. You want your monuments to actually catch the eye. Even this little guy here catches the eye because he's there in the nexus of those roads. This I'll probably put on top of a hill, by the way. So it's overlooking the traffic as people are coming and going from the city. We've obviously got this on the top of the hill there. We've got this little guy here. We've definitely got some kind of unique lighthouse, if that is indeed a monument. And I think, honestly, if we did any more with a city like this, it would be a little over the top. I certainly aren't going to put, like, pyramids in here, or sphinx, as well as those standing stones. But if I did do pyramids, logically they'd probably be outside of the city, right? The sphinx, who knows? Did we build up around the sphinx? Was that like maybe a point of high religious activity that kind of started the growth of the city here? Or is it highly revered and so you kind of like live to one side of it, but then you pilgrimage to it? You've got to think about this type of thing. So I'm going to leave it there. I think I don't want to flog this one too hard. I just want you to think about a little bit of, is there a monument that I want to put in this city? What is the lore behind this? And then where is the logical place for it? In which case, what's going to drive everything from that point is how you draw it. The next is, even on the smaller settlements, there's probably something that means something to them. Even if it's just a little humble statue or a particularly prominent building where they want to impress people arriving to the city for the first time, or something of a more religious nature. So with that said, I will leave this particular chapter right there. If you have enjoyed this, please consider hitting me with a like. Maybe if you want to know more about mapping, gaming, miniatures, painting, galore, and all things passionate about tabletop role-playing games, hit that subscribe button. And if you really love me, as much as I love you, take a look at my Patreon. I'd love to see you there and would love your support. For the price of a cup of coffee a month, I get to eat another day. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you hanging out with me today. I'm going to be back on the flip side.